right, welcome everyone. This is the September Integral Support Pod, and today we're going over something called micro practices. And we're going to do a round table, which is a little different than our normal support pod, which normally we have one person present a project they're doing, and then we all share something about how we can support them. But today we're going to actually do a roundtable about this concept of micro practices, which our board member, Michael, how do you say his last name, Kim?
McElhaney. Ask
Mac
Victoria.
McElhaney. Michael McElhaney has created this idea. I think he patented it, right? He invented this.
I
Yes?
don't know. I don't know if that's true, but go ahead. We'll say it's true.
That's true, probably.
In some
And
universe.
because we believe in ILEA, Integral Leadership in Action, we believe in we space. As much as Michael believes that he's the creator of this concept, we are going to workshop it tonight or today, whatever time it is at wherever you are. And we're going to try to figure out what are micro practices and how can we make them part of our life to regulate our body, our mind, our soul, our spirit, whatever else, so that we can live our very best lives. And that is what we're doing tonight, today. All right. Is there any questions?
Let's go. Let's go.
All right. Well, Kim, you seem to have a lot of ideas about this. I have not spent as much time thinking about this as you, I think, must have, Kim. So please share with us your burning ideas. And anyone else who wants to queue up, please raise your hand using the hand raising feature in Zoom. And let's go, Kim.
Well, first of all, let me say that I would love for Karen to go next so that I hear something about what Michael presented. And thank you for letting me go because I've got to leave in 15, 20 minutes. So what I want to say about this is I'm having so much fun with this as an inquiry because if at our April Embodied Integral event, we're going to have micro practices either as a session or as a sort of a session, but spotted or threaded, then I who, Sandy, you don't know, but I used to be a PE teacher. So I have a lot of educational theory and I'm really prejudiced for living in our bodies. And so this whole idea of micro practice, I go, kinesthetic. Yes, we're going to do something with our body. But I'm also really doing a lot of work right now with my local university that reaches out all over. And Sandy, I should talk to you about holistic education sometime. But we're doing social and emotional learning workshops because the state of Oregon has just mandated the blah, blah, blah. So the first two competencies in SEL, social emotional learning, is self-awareness and self-management. So if we're going to teach that to kids, and we're going to teach that to adults who are teaching kids, and we're going to make sure people are competent at, and the other ones are social awareness and relational skills and decision making. But those first two just seem to me, woo, what a great thing to be able to know a little tool bag of micro practices and be able to share that, use that singularly and also in collectives. That's all.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you so much. That's how you do it. So who wants to go next? I know Kim was volunteered, but Kim, this is a free and open place. You can go next or you can just wait. So who wants to go next?
Well,
Jane.
Well, I would like to also hear what Karen has to say, but I'll just say that I'm also very much into embodiment of, my bent is a little more about embodied spirituality or, using the body's intelligence to, bring forth whatever. And so that's, so I'm very interested in what some of this might be. And so, So I don't want to voluntold you, Karen, yet, but I also am very interested in hearing what you have to say.
Okay. Well, it makes
Everyone
sense.
wants to hear from you, Karen.
Yeah, it makes sense because this Michael McElhinney, it was a 2-hour presentation that the San Diego Integral monthly Zoom meeting just last Saturday. And man, and Michael's been doing this a long time, and he's done among a lot of other things, a lot of coaching of athletes, grown and children, like 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds, hockey, which talk about physical. And so he spent 2 hours presenting the theory and then the practice, and we had a chance to have 3 breakout groups in groups of 3. And I don't know if the San Diego Integral people did this on purpose, but they put me in the breakout group with Michael, which was a lot of. I got a chance to meet him. I think he's the only board member of ILEA I had not met already. So we got a chance to get acquainted, but boiling it down, the micro practice has 3 stages, and it takes into account the physical, the emotional, and the mental and the spiritual, all 3. You know, you can kind of the 4 aspects of our being, which is really a very profound way of understanding ourselves. Those are Jung's 4 basic ways we deal with the world, with our bodies, our 5 senses, with our emotions, with our thoughts, the thought process, the stories we tell ourselves verbally or in numbers and images, and then the spiritual, the pure consciousness. And these micro practices are a way he coached us through in 3 steps, just putting together our own personal micro practice. You have to get him to explain what we're, but the first is breath work. It has these, a micro practice has 3 components. The first is breath work, and you can whatever, so he coached us through choosing whatever physical thing involving breath would be most meaningful to us, that really resonated with us. Then he coached us through picking a positive thinking. So the story we tell ourselves, our verbal visual response, picking one of those that would be most meaningful to us in connection with whatever breathwork we chose. And then the third component would be some kind of a positive affirmation or something visual, some visualization or some positive affirmation that would tie together into one coherent thing. And they can be really short, like 1 to 2 minutes, 5 minutes. The point is that these are really short, and we can do them anytime. And he had some really impressive stories about how some of his kids, as well as adults in sports, in corporate world, he's also coaches, corporate executives in order to function better in their corporate world, and how these little practices can just kind of tune us up so that we can go into whatever we need to do next, really focused and able and at our best. And so I had a lot of fun putting mine together. It was, I have to say, it was really a synchronicity for me, because I've been meditating for 41 years, a lot of like 2.5 hours a day. I was really serious, and that evaporated over the last 5 years for reasons I won't go into. And in order to keep doing what I want to do with you folks and Bet and some of my other integral involvements, I'm going to have to get back into functioning the way I used to function back when I was, let's say before I retired. And I realized I've got to restart my spiritual practice, so I'm going to keep that edge. And just, oh my God, to really get up at that time, like 4:35 in the morning, and really get up. And I've been trying and not quite firing. And this little micro practice that Michael talked me through putting together on Saturday, I set myself up and I did it Sunday morning. And by golly, it mostly worked. And I'm going to need a little micro practice before I go to bed, because I'm going to have the cup of coffee right there at a certain point right after. And I'm going to need a couple of other things right in place the night before, like having the right YouTube talk by my guru on my YouTube channel, so I don't get distracted by the clickbait when I'm groggy at 4:30 in the morning. But if I can set it up for the night before, and I've been doing it the last 2-3 days, and it's like, okay, and I'm not going to insist that I meditate the whole hour, just like start with 20 minutes, half an hour, and stabilize there. But that micro practice that he talked me through creating has just kind of enabled me to take that next step that I've been wanting to take and unable to. So I'm a fan, and I'm looking forward to seeing where he can go with it when he has us for 3 days in Boulder next April.
Thank you so much for sharing. And that's really inspirational. I can't wait to watch the video, and we'll link to the San Diego integral video in the show notes on this video when
Okay.
this video is posted. All right. Anyone else want to share what they think or how they might be able to use a micro practice, or what is this bringing up for them? Maybe you have another kind of practice that is something similar. Anybody?
Yeah, yes, I do have,
Please
this
share.
is, well, I have discovered like belly breathing to be a very important part of and any practice that I'm doing, is that because it seems to get me into the feeling part of my body. And I think, I've lived a lot of my life from the neck up. And so anything I can do to get me deeper into the body and to actually feel those feelings, and belly breathing seems to be the key that I'd done it before, but I've sort of moved into a new realm of being able to experience like awareness, going beyond the body. And I think belly breathing is the methodology, at least for me, to help me get there, just to widen my perspective and be able to actually experience it. The whole idea of a story, a positive story. I read the other day something that I really loved, that was like, when you have a negative story about yourself, you want to unearth the angel that's within that story. And I just love
Ooh.
that thought of being able to utilize it in such a way that I can discover this, more of a depth of self-compassion and kindness or whatever toward myself. And then to be able to move it into a positive story, a positive way of thinking about myself. I've been really working on that aspect of things, but um, I think that's a powerful practice when we can get beyond kind of platitudes. It's not just looking in the mirror and going, "Oh, you're beautiful." And there has to be some kind of connection to it. And one story that I got from doing the work that I do is really shadow based, discovering a shadow belief that you have and then working with it. And I was able to move from, I'm unlovable, this belief I uncovered from childhood and thinking I was ugly and and move it to this. This was the story I was able to take on. The more I love myself, the more beautiful I become. And when that came into my awareness, it just kind of knocked me on my butt, because I am beautiful, trying to turn it around. It just wasn't landing. It was just didn't feel right. But the more I love myself, the more beautiful I become, did land. And that younger part of me that I was working with landed for her in a huge way. And I've been able to utilize that and to feel that in my body um, amazingly. So I just want to underscore the power of these very simple exercises, and yet they can be life-changing in a sense. And I just have a question, Karen. Do you know if he worked with children like ADHD or, any kind of learning disabilities? I have a grandson who's just been, he's just been
Not,
diagnosed.
not that I know of. In what I recall from his presentation, his working with kids was in the context of team sports.
Right.
And specifically hockey. So if he does work with that, it would be, I presume, in the context, but you'd have to ask him.
Yeah, I'd be very interested in that. Anyway, thank you for listening. That's what I'll share.
Hey, William.
Welcome, William, thanks for joining today.
Thank you. I was just in town, and all of a sudden I saw a notification that it's Zoom time.
Yay.
So I rushed home, and I'm sorry I'm late, but here I am.
We're just
That's
doing
right.
round table on what are what are micro practices and how do we use them if we do have them? Does anyone else have anything coming up for them?
I wanted to say one real quick thing before I leave. I love what Jane just said. Jane, that's so powerful in so many ways. And Karen, thank you for giving us an overview of Michael McElhaney's integral San Diego integral thing on Saturday. I especially like the part that it's all 4 parts of us, or 3 parts, however we
Yeah.
see it, making
Yeah.
sure all of that comes to the table. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that it's so interesting to me when people talk about breathing as their centering device. I find that irritating as hell. So it's so funny because I have to go to, Karen, what you said, 5 senses. And if I really want to settle, it's like, what's the bottom of my foot feeling? What's my butt feeling? You know, is the air moving? Is it quiet or noisy? I mean, I have to do 5 senses. That is the fastest way. If I'm really scattered,
Mhm.
for me, that's the fastest way to say, okay, all of that's real. In my sensory physical self, that's all real. So I want to thank you all. And when I just disappear, I'll put a heart in the chat. And I hope I get to wave to Nick before I'm gone.
Kim, thank you very much, very much. And I really also enjoyed what Jane shared. So I'm going to share something until someone else is ready. And I shared this one with Karen the other day, and she seems to have really been inspired by it. I don't really know if this is a real micro practice, people, but I'm just going to share. So by my desk, come on, Karen, let's do it. I always have some weights. These are 3 pounds. She's got 5. And so underneath the Zoom, you guys can't see me. I'm doing weightlifting. Woo! And then on my feet, which they're not on here right now because I just got back from the gym not that long ago, I have ankle weights. And so I'm always kicking my legs, and that's working my quadriceps. So this is a micro workout. So if you are the kind of person who has to be on too many Zoom calls a day, you can do this kind of workout and people won't even know, maybe, except that you might get a little out of breath. But that keeps my blood flowing and keeps the creativity flowing. And I will just continue. I read this book very recently called Unstressable by Mo Gout, and he had a micro practice in there that has really changed my life. I actually started this book back in May, and I was listening to it when I was at the Future Human event. And this little micro practice, I'm telling you, it's very powerful. I just used it on Saturday. On Saturday, I had a gig, and I'm a cellist. And as I was playing the songs in front of an audience, I was like, I really didn't practice enough for this gig. And I was just thinking to myself, like, everyone just knows I'm a terrible fraud. I'm the worst. And the speaker was turned up so loud on my cello that every little tiny bump, if I didn't have the perfectly most smooth, it just sounded horrible to me. And I was just like, I am terrible. I just should walk away. And then I realized this is not a useful thought. Like, this is not helping me be a better cellist, right? And people don't want me to walk away. And so this is what Mo Gout teaches. Thank you, brain, for this thought. Thank you. Now can you bring me a more useful thought? It's just a tiny little micro practice
Yes.
that I have found so powerful that helps me refocus on what I'm needing to be doing, and that's playing the cello properly in front of a bunch of people without like just walking up and go like, sorry guys, I'm just gonna leave now. So those are 2 little things that I've been doing that have been very powerful. Let me see, I wrote something down. Yeah, I think the only other thing that I really want to mention is I grew up in a family where if you had an emotion, like you said, like I'm feeling mad or I'm feeling sad or whatever, basically everyone's like, suck it up, just get your chores done and stop whining, right? And so what I learned as a kid is like, no one cares about my emotions and I shouldn't care either. And I think it's been a long journey for me to understand that emotions are important and they're very useful. It's a piece of information. As a computer scientist, I like data. And so I've been learning to create fine-grained descriptions of my emotional state and taking time throughout the day to just feel my emotions and see what's going on. Am I worrying about something? Am I having some anxiety about something? Am I joyful about something? And I actually just downloaded an app. I don't know if this is a real micro practice, but I just downloaded this app today that's called How We Feel. How We Feel. And this is an app where it notifies you a few times a day. Normally I don't do notifications on any apps, but it says, how are you feeling? And you can do a little check-in, and it basically has 4 kind of states. So high emotion, low, positive, negative. And so you can kind of say like, oh, right now I'm really high, pleasant energy. And then it gives you way more. I know you guys can't actually see this, but you can say like, oh, I'm feeling enthusiastic right now. And so you can sort of get a journal of how your emotions, as someone who's still learning how to deal with my emotions and understand them, I just got this today, so I'm not totally sure how it's going to work. But anyways, I am now complete. Who would like to go next?
Oh, I'm willing to riff further on the micro practices, but first I want to open space for anybody else who has something to throw into the pot at this point.
Yeah, I do. Let me know if you can't hear me. I'm
You sound
outside.
great.
And,
You
okay,
sound great.
the
Yep.
internet's inside and I'm outside. So just let me know. Okay, so I did not know tonight's topic. I text Bet earlier and I said, "What's the topic?" And I said, "Okay, great." And this is fascinating because this morning my journaling was about what are emotions. So this is what it says, because I think this is very relevant to this conversation. Says, so it gives us the definition in this journal exercise. Emotions can be defined as a response involving thoughts, beliefs, judgments, and perceptions to an internal, external experience. That's the definition we're working with here. Then it says the words emotion and motive are derived from the Latin root mover, which means to move. So you're moving forward or through or vibing through these levels of emotions or layers of emotions, right? So I just thought it was so random and not random, coincidental, happy coincidence that I was totally into this journaling this morning, answering all these questions about emotions. And this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that to the table because it's like so meant to be.
Yeah. Wow, really? Another synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, emotion, that it is from mover, the verb to move, but plus the x to move away. It moves forward. Emotions are the energy. I literally think of them as fuel, like the fuel in our cars. They're that elan vital, the life energy, and becoming more. It's what we're all doing with integral, especially, but a lot of other movements, is becoming more conscious, becoming aware of our emotions as they rise, like that exercise you have with your notifications. And this is Eckhart Tolle, who's one of my favorite teachers. You know, he nails it. He says, "What is the purpose of our existence?" Somebody asked him that, and he just came out with, "To bring consciousness into this dimension." Of course, being a Brit, he said dimension. Becoming more conscious. And that is just this little package that Michael McElhaney put together and presented for us and coached us through at San Diego Integral. I mean, the more I sit with it, it's been 3 days now, the more impressed I am. Michael, he coached us through creating a little personal micro practice, can last 1 to 3 to 5 to 10 minutes, that combines basically all 4 aspects of how we deal with the world: our physical bodies, our emotions, our thoughts, and our intuition, or our spirit, which is our pure consciousness. And so basically we are bringing our consciousness to our state. We are basically creating a little personal ritual to bring our attention into our essence right now in a way that pulls our attention and our energy and our bodies and our thought streams together in a way that we can move on into whatever we need to move on to next. So basically, I've been translating these to myself for the past 3 days as personal rituals. And this to me is very meaningful. I'm a cultural historian, as Bette knows, and William knows. And, I've been spending a lot of time trying to write my integral novel in progress is set 11,000 years ago when priests and priestesses were the hot new cutting new age thing. And so you create rituals and what the rituals do. And I'm going to give an example, like in very early Rome. I mean, every household, the female head of household was the priestess of the hearth, and she tended the fire, and that was holy and sacred fire. I mean, if you are a prehistoric being, fire, you got to be so careful with it, because it can destroy everything or it can accomplish anything. It cooks your food, it warms your house, that's how you forge metal, that's how you bake the bread. So fire, the female head of household starts the day with a ritual at the family hearth, and it blesses. Then she puts ashes from the fire on the foreheads of everybody. These are these rituals and ritual. So this is sacred. This is a way of making it sacred. By putting our attention on it, we are taking the power of our Buddha nature, our higher self, our pure consciousness, bringing consciousness into our bodies, emotions, thoughts, our embodied beings, putting that focused attention on it. We're making it sacred. That's kind of how I translated it into our collective past. So these are rituals. And to me, you make it sacred by offering it to the gods or to God. That's what sacrifice, more Latin. Sacrifice literally means sacer facio, make it sacred. And you make it sacred by offering it to God. So a kind of a postmodern version of this is like a little micro practice like this. It's this little personalized, custom-made ritual that helps us bring our attention, our Buddha nature, our pure consciousness into our embodied condition with our bodies, breathing, thoughts, stories we're telling ourselves, emotions, that energy charge, focusing it, making it conscious. And so we're offering it. So in a sense, offering it to our, I could spin off on this, but I think I've said enough. But I've had a lot of fun playing with this, and it's just another way to become more conscious and more focused, and being able to be more effective in our lives and in the world with this. So to me, Michael McIlhenny's micro practices are a way of making little rituals that make things sacred. So that's my riff.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Karen, I was also going to mention, because you mentioned, I think somebody has ADD, ADHD. I'm going to make a very strong assumption that children with ADD and ADHD play sports. And I bet you half his population are hyperactive kids.
Right. And hockey would especially appeal to hyperactive kids.
Yeah. Yep.
So my grandson, just to give a little context, he's just been diagnosed in the last couple of weeks, actually, that he has ADHD. He has off the charts anxiety.
Oh.
And he's low level autism and Asperger's. And so and he's very high functioning. I mean, I would not have guessed all this. I knew he had some like social anxiety. I know that. But my daughter and I have been working together to kind of move through the emotion that brings up for us and for him. He's quite distraught about it. And so we're trying to, find ways for him to settle his nervous system. That's kind of the big part of it and so I think this kind of thing would be very helpful for sure. Yeah.
How old is he?
He's 11. He just went into the middle school,
Middle
sixth
school.
grade. and I'm just afraid he's going to get eaten right up. I'm
Oh,
sorry. It's a real
Yeah,
worry
middle-
for me.
yeah, middle school is rough for,
Oh.
it's,
Yep.
I think it's rough for all of us.
It was just one long trauma for me, I'll tell you that. Um, so I'm going to visit there, and I want to take with me as much to try to be helpful. I'm not trying to, elbow my way in, but I know that he could learn some techniques that could calm his system and help him to deal with the anxiety.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know that that book Unstressable is not meant for kids, but did you read that book? You were nodding a lot.
I'm just reading one called Stress Resets, and it sounds very much the same, where it just has all these practices. So I'm bringing that, but I've written down stressables. I'm thinking, okay, that
Yeah, Unstressable. The thing that
unstressable.
he defines anxiety versus fear versus, I don't know, he takes all these words and really breaks them down, and it was really helpful. But I'll send you some stuff. I thought I had ADHD for a little while, and then I found out I didn't have it, but I did do a ton of research into ADHD for a little while. I'll send you some stuff I found,
Great.
Jane.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's really helpful.
So William and Sandy, we haven't heard yet from you. Do either of you have anything coming up for you? Any inspiration from any of this? Sandy?
Yes. As I mentioned, I came across a lot of good things from the integral group. The most recent I came across, both learned from, one of the members is Gene Keys and authentic relating. I'm not sure whether I know if you know about it. And it boils down to, well, one very important micro practice for me is pausing at any moment to really notice what's happening inside yourself, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental, whatever happen within this body. And the importance of slowing down, because whatever realization, whatever awareness, whatever you would need to learn only happen at this moment. And it has to have a space for you to get access to yourself. That's the only practice. And it's a micro practice, and yet it is an eternal practice, because now is eternity. That's the only
Yes.
time we have. So I found this very simple, but very powerful, because that's the only way I can live my life. And the practice is just you can do it at any moment. Really get access to as an individual, and even more powerfully as a group. If we can kind of really access to what actually happened in this moment inside each of us, rather than talk about, first we do need to talk about things outside this moment, but that kind of practice really helped us to process after that pausing. And Gene Keys had a very good apps called a Triple Frame, helped us a lot of features to help us remind us to take a pause every now and then. And one of the guided meditation called Three Harmonies was very good. Talk about synchronizing the breath, the heartbeat, and the flow within each of our cells in the body. Guide us to synchronize those three rhythms. And because he said that's the rhythm of the universe. And when you synchronize the rhythms of those three things in your body, then you're synchronized with the rhythm of the universe. So very powerful. So that's my sharing, and really recommend it.
Can you put them in the chat just so that we can look into that some more, Sandy?
Okay.
In case any of us are not familiar. Thank you so much. I'm so excited about the new members of our group. And William, anything coming up for you?
So this is a general micro practice for anything.
Anything that's coming up for you?
I'm not aware that I have a micro practice other than being mindful of the moment, which I constantly try to keep coming back to. But yeah, I can't think of a particular, when it comes to writer's block, for example, my micro practice is just to start writing anything. And it's funny that within a few sentences of writing nonsense, all of a sudden things start cohering a little bit. But that's maybe sort of a micro practice just for writing.
Keep it coming, William. What else? I feel like you have more. You got more in there. Anything else you do? Do you have any other large practice, macro practices?
Well, yeah, I try to take a nap every afternoon.
Very interesting.
If I can. I didn't get one today, but I find a short nap, 20 minutes or so, to be extremely refreshing and energizing. So that's more of a macro practice.
And your 6 dimensions.
And
your
So maybe
six-
William, your micro practice of writing is part of that visual piece, Karen, that Michael talked about, right? Because it's breath work. It's realizing what your emotion is, breath work, positive, thinking of something positive, and then visualizing something positive. I would consider your writing nonsense, William, a micro practice. That's a visualization, right?
Yeah, I think what I attempt to do is to enter a flow state. And so to get there, you have to actually just start doing something.
Right.
And then you get lost in it.
Yeah.
I'll have to say, William is a very experienced and competent writer. He wrote a book called 6 Dimensions of Purpose. That's his macro practice. And when I read, I was really impressed by the quality of the prose. It's corporate, kind of professional writing at its best. It's very specific. It's specific and detailed, but so lucid in very clear language that pretty much anybody with a high school education is immediately going to grasp it and be able to keep on the flow of ideas. So to hear William say that he sits down and has writer's block is actually kind of encouraging to me, because when I read what's one of the things he's written, I say, man, this guy's on top of it. So it's kind of encouraging to hear that sometimes you need help getting over that bump too.
Well, thank you for your praise, Karen. I appreciate it.
It's deserved.
All right, I will share a few more that I do. So I do Wim Hof breathing every morning. Does anyone know what that is?
Mhm.
Yeah, some people do. Okay. So Wim Hof maybe stole this breathing from probably some yoga practice, but is he from the Netherlands or somewhere over there?
Yeah.
And he's known as the Iceman. He has some world records for going underwater in like ice water and swimming, and he's hiked to, I don't know, some mountain in his shorts, no shoes on. He's just completely next level. But he has an app called Wim Hof. You don't need the app to do it, but I just find it to be convenient. So you do some number of breaths, like inhaling, exhaling through the mouth or through the nose, either one, and then you hold your breath out for some certain amount of time, like 20, 30, 40, a minute, seconds. 1 minute, not for like 20 minutes. So depends on how I slept and all kinds of factors. I hold it out about 45 seconds, and I do about 3 to 5 or 10 rounds, not 10, probably like 7 rounds, depending on how much time I have. But this is like a really big cortisol, dopamine.
Mm.
Doing that kind of breath work is dopamine. Doing like a 4-count box breath that we did at our writers thing last week, that's very much evens out your nervous system. But Wim Hof is a dopamine rush. So I know people who have been addicted to drugs have been able to use this as helping them get off of the drugs. I've never done anything like cocaine or anything like that, so I can't really speak to that. But yeah, so Wim Hof is something people can try. Welcome, Tom, here for the last 9 minutes. We're glad to a micro support pod for Dr. Tom Habib. Thank you for joining. All right, and then one other thing I wanted to let you guys know about that is some research. I don't remember when it came out, but it's pretty recent research that did biopsy on the muscle. So they had 2 groups. One of them watched TV while doing weightlifting, and the other group looked at the muscle in the mirror or looking at it like this while weightlifting. And the ones who were mindful of the muscle, their muscle was stronger and more dense. And the ones who are just watching TV, their muscle is not as dense. So this is just pure science. Mindfulness really makes whatever we're doing a lot more effective. So if you don't have a lot of time and you want to get that weightlifting in, be mindful of it. And you're going to really do next week. Let's all bring our weights. You will really be able to get that more effective. So Tom, we're kind of doing a roundtable of micro practices that we do. They're maybe not technically what Michael was talking about last week. Do you have anything? Is anyone else have anything coming up? We only have a few minutes left. And if you have anything, like Tom.
Well, I know that some of these micro practices, like when I get a break from seeing clients, I'll walk out to get the mail and I'll get in the sunshine and just do this.
Mm.
And it resets everything so that that constant drain isn't happening. So I realize I use a lot of them.
But that only works in Southern California.
You got to move here. You got to move.
I would say one more thing I wanted to add was that I'm realizing, as we're speaking about this, that one of the micro practices I have inadvertently taken on is learning how to, when I've been triggered in some way, to go to self-compassion very quickly, where it didn't happen before. I had to practice self-compassion. It was like, it wasn't coming at all. But once I got into, rubbing the arms and, talking to myself gently and whatnot, I have discovered how quickly now that shifts, that I'll have a triggering moment and be able to work through it very much quicker, and to start with how, oh God, it feels so hard to feel this way, and it's okay, using Kristin Neff's work, if any of you are familiar with her, Dr. Kristin Neff. And it just occurred to me how that has turned into almost a micro practice for me that is surprising me as I'm thinking about it, because it's like, that's a long time coming, because boy, self-compassion was not something I learned ever. It was a skill I had to practice, but becoming more natural now. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be wrapping up. Any last final thoughts, or maybe how you're going to apply this to your life?
Well, I'm realizing that my spiritual practice of 40 plus years, although I've completely lost the habit of sitting down in long meditation sessions, but I've kept the mantra. There's a mantra we learn, and that's a constant refuge. And that's kind of like bringing the energy back in. and called what I've brought to it recently is paying attention to my body and the breath, because our spiritual practice wanted us to get out of the body altogether. It's very traditional that way. The body's just negative. And so I've had to balance that with some of these other, being aware of the body, taking care of my physical health, but the breathing, doing my mantra with the breathing is something I can keep going back to. So I'm now realizing that that's a very potent micro practice that I've had all along, and I'm now a little more conscious of.
You know, Karen, this whole thing from your guru is like, it's completely fascinating to me. So maybe sometime you should teach us like exactly the philosophy from your guru. But anyways, not today, in the next 4 minutes. All right. Any final, let's do a rapid round. Any takeaways that people are realizing they need to bring into their life? Anything that popped out to you from something someone else said?
Well,
William.
I liked your micro practice of noticing that you're having a thought that isn't working for you, and just put it away and have a new thought.
This thing is really powerful. And there's that
Yes.
book called The Inner Game of Tennis. I don't know if you guys have heard about that. I think that's just such a good thing for people who are not woo-woo and don't really believe in anything. For them to read a book like that, they actually have a book called The Inner Game of Music, which is the same guy. I think actually someone wrote it, like co-wrote it with him. But all this inner dialogue is not helpful, right? It's just very unuseful, but it takes a long time to recognize that. And so people come to that from different directions. Some people, you know, learn about it from yoga, and some people learn it from Zen and Buddhism, and there's all these different paths. But at the end of the day, we should be able to manage our brain and make it do the things we want it to do, right? Hopefully, it's a pretty good piece of software, or maybe it's hardware. I don't know. All right, anyone else?
It's wetware.
Wetware, neural networks.
Yeah.
Any other final thoughts? Anyone want to share anything?
I want to thank Sandy for coming at
Yes.
this early hour in the morning where you are, and for bringing the wisdom that you brought. I've got all of the links that you shared, and I'm looking forward to looking into all that. It was very helpful. Thank you to all of you for revitalizing for me the power of this. And I'm going to have my weights here next time. I'll bring them.
Woo.
It'll all just be like,
Yeah.
it'll keep our blood flowing. And I'll put this book, Unstressable by Mo Gauts. All right, good. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording.